Bama gets set to take on Oklahoma. We'll get into that. The college football playoff rankings are out. And the placement, Bama moved up again. They still got to keep on winning. We'll talk about that in the Heisman odds. Where's Jalen Milroe? And do you think he has a real chance to be a dark horse candidate for this year's Heisman Trophy? All that right here on the All-American Report, brought to you by mybookie.ag, using that promo code next round to double your initial deposit. Let's get this thing going. Love that. Love that open, man.
Yeah, no.
They killed it with that open.
I thought I had that picture sitting around somewhere.
Look at you now.
In Atlanta. Well, this one. Have you ever noticed this? My butt on this one?
Yeah,
that's me. It's me running away from the camera because my front's on the other side. But anyways, man. Yeah, what's up, dude?
It's good to see you. Another day closer to Bama, Oklahoma. Right out of the chute. Brent Beneville.
I got it. Yeah. Well, hang on. You just mentioned the playoff, and you something jumped up into my brain really quick off the top. And I'm assuming that you've seen the 12, you've seen, what's going on with everybody else. Is anybody happy in college football with what their ranking is, other than maybe Oregon and Ohio State? Like, is anybody excited about where they're at? I guess probably the Big Ten teams are all like, it is what it is, because they're kind of ruling over the top five. But almost everybody outside of the top five, it seems like, is pissed off about where they're at. Like,
it's the Big Ten, though. The problem with the Big Ten and the reason why their teams are always ranked really high is because the level of competition drops off so much from like the top 2 or 3 teams that they always have like inflated stats and records, right? If they were playing like the SEC, sorry, but it's true. You don't have Kentucky that it got one win but can beat you. You don't have Vanderbilt, which can jump up and beat you. You don't have to go on the road to Arkansas, which can jump up and beat you. And these are teams with one win. Oklahoma, with all those 4 and 5 stars, that they if you're not careful, they can beat you. Auburn with a ton of money, that Yellowwood money. Yeah, they haven't won, but I'll tell you what, they can beat you. Their conference is like, there's just a bunch of games you're not going to lose.
Yeah, and the thing is too, man. And I think we talked about this the other day. Mackenzie Brooks, who works for CBS Sports, she was kind of going at Danny Cannell, like in person, like in their studio, and she was like, he was propping up Indiana. He's like, they beat everybody on their schedule, and she's like, Indiana would be an underdog to 8 SEC teams. Yeah. 8. It's not even close. And so, look, I think I look at it, and one of the things that I took away last night is, first of all, Bama has absolutely no path to host a playoff game.
You don't
which
think
sucks.
So?
No, there's no path for them to host a playoff game. There's no,
because if they win the SEC, they'd get a bye. They'd go right into the bowl, right?
Right. And if they lose any game along the way, they won't make it to the SEC championship. They lose the SEC championship. I'm not sure that they'll be in the playoff if they lose the SEC championship, which stinks.
Mm-hmm. You don't think if they keep winning and some of these other teams lose, they could be hosting?
How does that look? It's impossible, dude. Like, it's impossible that Bama would host. There's no in between. There's no possibility of them to be 5 through 8. They either win the SEC or they don't go to the SEC championship, and they have 3 losses, and that then all of a sudden you're on the outside looking in. Right. Or if you do go to the SEC championship, people will make the argument that the SEC runner-up, because it's a 13th data point, will still be in. I'm not sure that that's going to be a thing, because there's so many teams right there. I was having the argument earlier today, Mick, that and not to get off on a tangent, we didn't even talk about Oklahoma. I was making the argument earlier today. Georgia fans are up in arms. They're up in arms about where they're at, because they feel like they lost 2 extremely tough games. Mm-hmm. They lost 2 games on the road to teams that are currently ranked 9th and 7th.
Right.
And so Georgia's, their gripe is like, how can we, actually challenge ourselves and have this tough schedule and go on the road and lose 2 very, very tough games, but also having beat Clemson, beat Tennessee, beat Texas, all these other teams that are, in the top 17, which I understand the gripe from that point. But I don't know how you move Georgia up any further because right in front of them is Ole Miss. And I think, Mick, Ole Miss is a lock to host a home playoff game. I think Oxford is getting a home playoff game because I think no matter how you slice the Big Ten, one of these teams in the top 5 that is a part of the Big Ten will tumble out, at least tumble back, to being outside of hosting because you got 5 in the top 5. Indiana, Ohio State this weekend. Winner of that game essentially goes on to play Oregon in the Big Ten championship. Penn State, I think Penn State's as close to a lock as you can be at hosting, but they have to win out. And obviously, as does a number of other teams. But I think Ole Miss in Oxford is hosting a playoff game. And I brought it up today to some Georgia fans that didn't like the thought of it, that there is a very real possibility that Georgia is either making a return trip to Oxford in Ole Miss, or, and this is what will really make you sick if you're a Georgia fan, there is a very real possibility that Georgia, if Bama can beat Texas in the SEC championship, I think Texas will remain ahead of Georgia in the rankings because it's the 13th data point and it's the SEC championship game they would have lost in. So I think there's a very distinct possibility that Georgia would make a return trip to Austin. I think the College Football Playoff Committee will try to do anything they can to avoid those rematches from the teams. But you want to talk about being up in arms. There's a lot of teams, and I've just come to terms with it as far as Alabama goes. You got to keep winning. But there's a lot of teams, I think, that are very upset. Tennessee, they beat Bama, 3-4 weeks ago, and all of a sudden they're on the outside looking in at this thing. Even just lost to Georgia. So, there's a number of different ways to break it down. And I tell you another thing that's crazy, Mick. You're dealing with the very, very real possibility that either the ACC champ or the Big 12 champ, namely the Big 12 champ, is completely left out of this thing. Completely.
Yeah, right. I've seen that. Because they're going to have so many losses. Although if it's Colorado, it's going to be hard to keep Coach Prime out. I
agree with that. But I think right now, you correct me wrong. I think right now, I think it's BYU versus Arizona State in the Big 12 championship, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm with you. If it's Colorado, they're getting it. BYU has a decent win against SMU, who's probably going to play in the ACC championship, which is crazy to think about. But where the craziness lies is Boise and Army. If Boise can win their conference, I think that everybody's thinking that Boise's probably going to get a 4 seed because it's the top 4 conference champions. Mm-hmm. And then if you're BYU, you have to stay ranked over Army, who's going to play Notre Dame. And if Army beats Notre Dame, they might get that 12 seed that you would have been looking at for BYU. Mm-hmm. So
what do you think about the Army? Out there, man? What do you think about the Army? And then the fact that the Army's game against Navy is after they field the college football playoff. Think about that.
I know. Isn't that crazy? And you're looking at a very real possibility then that Army doesn't even get a week off. Think about that.
I would love to see the Army make it. That would be amazing.
Oh, dude, I would too. But think about it. Army might not even get a week off.
No transfer.
They might not even get a week off, Mick. Isn't that crazy? They might. Army could play on December 7th, conference championship weekend, and then play Navy, and if they were to make it and win, the conference championship, and become a 12 seed, then go on the road on December 20th in the first round.
Yeah.
But I'd love to see it, man. I'm with you, dude. That to me, Army is still holding the candle in terms of old school college football. That's what it was meant to look like.
They've won national championships, which people might not know. Back in the day.
And they're not, dude. That's not a team that's the portal, the NIL, all that. That's not Army, dude. They're doing it. Their quarterback right now, PFF, number 1 player, PFF grade, number 1 quarterback in the country for PFF.
Nice.
So, it's a lot to take in there. Anyways, man, I didn't mean to get off on a top 12 tangent before we even got into anything, but it's just on my brain because, I live in Georgia and Bama's 7 and all this other stuff. And I, buddy walked in this morning. He goes, Bama, hey, home playoff game. I said, dude, no. It's an impossibility. It's a mathematical impossibility. So.
Okay. Well, I don't agree with you because if they win and they win convincingly again, if they play the same style of football that they've been playing, they handle business, they keep ball hawking, they just keep rolling. Well, then, but you're right. If they get to the SEC championship game, then that eliminates the first round game. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess you are right. Like if the problem that they have is at the SEC championship game. They'd have to have things fall where they didn't get to that, then be that team that was like everybody's going, well, they should have been in that, but they're not because of the 6 teams that are all tied there.
Right. No, that's the thing. Like Georgia is pretty much a lock to if they went out. Ole Miss is a lock if they went out, and you just can't say with the round robin you've dealt with there.
Don't you think Tennessee's better than Ole Miss? I do.
The problem is that both Tennessee and Ole Miss have bad losses. Right. The Tennessee loss
at home's worse than Arkansas on the road.
But then you're saying essentially that Ole Miss's loss against, or Ole Miss's win against Georgia is better than Tennessee's win against Bama. I don't know, man. You're splitting hairs at that point, I guess.
Yeah, but I agree with
you. Who else is Ole Miss beat?
Ole Miss beat nobody. I mean, besides Georgia. I mean, really. I mean, it's like
lost to LSU, right? Yeah.
Yeah, they lost to LSU too. Those are 2 bad losses now. Georgia fans are right. Like you lost to Bama and you lost to Ole Miss in the rain on the road, right? I mean,
what's really going to throw a chink in the armor? Yeah. Well, I know that's the whole thing, man. You start getting. Well, I mean, Lord knows, dude. Like Notre Dame, what are we doing? Like Notre Dame is in front of Bama right now. They have by far the worst loss in all this with NIU at home.
But
like,
have you ever heard their fight song, Mike? You ever seen their uniforms? Notre Dame.
Oh, I know.
I mean,
and that's the thing is,
has nothing to do with
football. There's so much money in this top 10. It's not even funny.
That's it.
I mean, dude, there's so much money. I mean, this is one of the conversations, and we got to move on. This is one of the conversations, though, that surrounds this entire thing. I do not believe for 1 minute that if Texas and Bama went out and Bama were to beat Texas, I do not believe for 1 minute that with that second loss coming in the SEC title game, I do not believe for 1 minute that Texas will fall below Georgia. And they should.
And they should.
But they're not. There is no way. There is no way with it. Money. Because now all of a sudden, and I would love to hear from Greg Sankey what he thinks about this, because now all of a sudden you've made it a penalty to play in the SEC title game. With Bama having a chance to completely be out of the playoff,
he doesn't want that.
Or Texas having a chance to lose, to go all the way back to being on the road in the first round, dude, that's a penalty. What Lane Kiffin said is dead on. That is a penalty at that point. So I think that Texas would stay in front of Georgia, and Georgia fans are going to lose their mind if that happens.
Yeah. All right. Well, so this is Bama plays at Oklahoma. So, this is one of those games that ESPN says on their thing, the Bama's got an 81.6% chance of beating Oklahoma on the road.
Right.
Oklahoma's last 5 games, 34-3 lost to Texas, 35-9 lost to South Carolina, 26-14 lost at Ole Miss. They beat Maine. I didn't even know Maine had football, 59-14, and then they
Bears, man.
They gave one away to Mizzou, 30-23. That was like a just awful, right? Bama's won 3 straight. They lost to Tennessee by 7 on the road. They before that they beat South Carolina by 2, and then since then 34-0 over Mizzou, 42-13 at LSU, 52-7 against Mercer. So Bama's kind of figured it out here, and I guess that's what we're seeing. Mike, I just feel like this. I can tell at the beginning of the games when these officials don't want a team to cover, there's a lot of holding penalties. There's a lot of bullshit at the beginning of these games. I don't think it's that they care who's going to win. I just feel like you can go into these road games, and that fast, I can tell you, they don't want them to cover today.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I know that you're saying.
Did you ever get that feeling when you were playing? Like, man, this is some bullshit here.
Well, trust me, I felt like every single time I got penalized, it was some BS. I mean, every single time. I mean, dude, like, I don't even let me go down this road. I can't tell you how many arguments I got into with teammates mid-game, just because I would get called for a penalty, and I'd be like, how the hell did I get called for that penalty? Like Andre Smith flinches, ball start 78. I'm like, what? How did I do that? Or you had John Parker Wilson walk up behind the line of scrimmage, and he would, try to change a play last minute. He's in the middle of his cadence. Ready, blue 80. Hold on. Whoa. Like, you jump, and it's like, oh, false start 78. I'd be like, right. Dude, like, yeah, like I'm about to lose my mind.
Yeah, right.
One time,
we're running that shit the way we gave it to you.
I'll never forget this moment. Andre Smith brought this up to me the last time I saw him. We were running a slide protection out left, right? So essentially any kind of blitzer you'd have off the left edge, because he's playing left tackle, I'm at left guard. Any kind of blitzer you'd have off the left edge would be his. We're responsible to slide to left, and running back would pick up anything coast to coast right, checking play side linebacker or strength linebacker, and we'd have any kind of weak side blitz. So essentially, when you get a weak side blitz, the defensive end will pinch into the B gap between me and Andre. And there will be, like a will linebacker or whoever else will blitz outside, and they'll kind of have contain. Well, Andre took his pass set, and I can't remember who we were playing. I want to say maybe Arkansas one year or something like that. Andre takes his pass set, and then he sees his defensive end pinch, and he kind of steps in with his right foot and takes like a 2-step shuffle, like, And then he goes, like, you can see in his mind, he goes, oh, shit, and looks back outside. Well, I was trying to cover up for him, because I'm like, dude, he's blocking the end. Like, I've got to get out there and make sure our quarterback doesn't die, because there's a blitzer coming off the edge. And in that whole moment, I'm like, Andre doesn't see the blitzer. So I'm like, I dive last minute out there, and I'm like, well, then what does Andre do? Andre like shuffles in, and then he goes, oh shit, I was supposed to pick up the blitzer. Shuffles right back out. So before I know it, me and Andre are both on the blitzer, and the defensive end's pinching, and I think hits John Parker Wilson right under the chin. Like, I mean, right under the chin. And, everybody, like, I think the crowd might be even been booing at this point. They're just like, what is going on? And Andre turns around to me, and you know what Andre does? He goes, what are you doing, dude? And I was like, bro, let me tell you something right now. We're on national TV. You put your hands up like that at me one more time, trying to save face for yourself, I'm going to punch you dead in the face. Don't you ever look at me and put your hands up like that again, like I'm the one that messed up. And dude, you knew in his face that he knew he screwed up. Supposed to keep sliding. I wouldn't have had to cover for him. But he was like, in the moment, he looked at me like, what? I was going to get him. And did like this. So on TV, dude, you can't see what we're saying. You don't know what we're supposed to be doing. You think I just screwed up. And you see Andre looking at me going, dude, what are you doing? And I was so mad at him in that moment, dude, because I was like, I know what you're doing, dude. You see the cameras. You're trying to save face, and you're trying to make it look like I was the one in the wrong, but I'm not the one in the wrong, dude. You screwed this up. And it was so funny, dude, because we've talked about that a number of times since. And he's like, dude, you were so mad at me. You're so pissed off. I'm like, yes, dude, because you know what the story is in the booth. All-American Outland Trophy winner, Andre Smith's looking at left guard Mike Johnson going, the hell are you doing, dude? Yeah, like, what are you doing?
Get your
and I'm going, I know that people are like, what the hell happened? And I'm like, but in the end, I'm like, this is not my fault, dude. Right. There's like a play like that every game where you're like, dude, I got screwed so bad on this. And I know that I'm in the crosshairs in the radio booth right now, but somebody just going off on something that they think I just did.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's so funny. Well, this team's got a big showdown at Oklahoma. Get by that one, and then next week's going to be wild. I mean, anytime you play Auburn, it's a big deal. So,
which one do you think be tougher?
Auburn. I think Auburn will, but I could see us honestly if we go out there, we don't have the weird penalties. We go in focused like we've been focused. I think we could make both of these games kind of look like the last two games.
Yeah,
I really do.
I agree with you. The only thing that concerns me, the biggest thing that concerns me about Oklahoma, they got a very good run defense. Like, you look at the success rate for runs against their defense, particularly quarterback runs. Actually, it's not very good. Like, they've had a lot of success defending quarterback runs, dual threat quarterbacks. And as good as we can be at times running the ball, specifically the last few weeks with Jalen Milroe, some of the new wrinkles we put in on the quarterback follows. Mm-hmm. Oklahoma's coming off a bye week, dude. Like, Oklahoma's coming off a bye week. They've got good coaches. They've got talented players. I mean, Jackson Arnold, for all the ups and downs, he's been awful throwing the ball downfield. But for all of that, he's still a 5-star recruit and a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah.
Given the right situation. So, I'm a little bit nervous about that. I'm nervous that we could back ourselves into a situation that looks a lot like the South Carolina game, where you maybe have success early, but then the defense for Oklahoma forces Jalen Milroe into a mistake, and then you get a turnover, and maybe, I know Auburn fans know about this, maybe a pick six or something like that, and then all of a sudden you can't run the ball and play the game you want to, and they make you play sort of left-handed and, trying to get the ball out of Jeremy Bernard and some of the other things. Now, I think we've gotten over that hump. From what I've seen the last 3 weeks, it seems like we've come a long way. But I just think that this is a team good enough and talented enough up front on defense to make you do things you don't want to do, to make you throw the ball, to make you make some of those crossing routes and do some of those things. So I agree with you to the standpoint that Auburn is always going to be a tough game. But I look at us going on the road, which we've struggled with, and playing an Oklahoma team that's very good against the run, and wondering if given the right circumstances, they put Jalen Milroe in a bad situation, if mistakes happen. I don't think it will. I tend to err more towards the Vegas odds of having us as a 2-touchdown favorite, but you and I have been on this roller coaster ride all year. I think people that haven't watched Bama and every play that Bama has had kind of look at it and go, well, same old Bama. Like, dude, there's still some things, some kinks you have to iron out. This is not just, well, you beat a couple teams and you're back where you need to be. Like, LSU's not good. Missouri's not good.
We didn't play great against Missouri. I know we beat them, but we didn't play. No. I thought we played really good against LSU. I thought we looked.
I did too, but remember what I told you for LSU? I was like, dude, their left guard's out. We're about to blitz in their face the entire game. We'll force a few turnovers, and we did. And the best thing about
Oklahoma's line stinks, though, Mike. Remember that. They're giving up more sacks than anybody.
Mick, they've had, I think now the number is 7 different starting combinations on O-line.
Yeah, so, I mean,
it's bad.
The same deal,
That's a good point. But they're going to try to run the ball more, which I think favors an offensive line a little bit better than LSU trying to drop back and throw it 50 times a game.
Yeah, it's true.
But no, I'm with you, man. Look, I'm not calling for Bama to lose. I feel better about this game than I ever did about Vanderbilt or Tennessee.
We both did. Because something just stunk about that, like
I didn't like that matchup from the beginning, dude. That's a very Vanderbilt runs a very complex offense for a defense that's learning, in their 4th game learning a scheme.
Yeah,
as we were back then. So, look, man, you're gonna have to play hard. You're gonna have to play physical. Hopefully, we can get the jitters. Being on the road, I think we kind of exercise some of those demons against LSU, but this is another tough task. I don't really, we talked about it the other day. I don't know what Oklahoma is at night, what that atmosphere is like, but I have to imagine that that's a hungry program that's trying to get things sorted out, man. They're looking at, possibly not even making a bowl game right now. And so I'm sure they'd like to get another SEC win and make some noise.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. But I just feel like if Alabama goes in there, does the things they're supposed to do, we get a couple of Hollywood plays.
For sure.
Get Bernard involved, block, and just have a good pace to the game. I think that they take care of business. I like the fact that it's a 6:30 game because it gives this team another tough road trip just to kind of get used to this. There's been a lot of these games that you play that matter at night, so hey man, get used to that on the road. You're the one that was telling me that Oklahoma fans are saying we're still trying to get used to playing at night. It's pretty funny. Let's talk Heisman odds. Just kind of, throwing that up there. Checking out the Heisman odds right now. Travis Hunter of Colorado is the favorite at minus 350, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you got the running back from Boise. You got the quarterback at Miami, Cam Ward, at plus 1,400. You got the quarterback at Indiana at plus 3,000 right now, but I'm feeling that after they lose, he'll be out. Dylan Gabriel at Oregon plus 3,500. Then you got him tied with Milroe at plus 3,500. So Milroe's starting to kind of get back on the rise again. What does that put him? 1, 2, 3.
I've got him at 6th on my screen.
It's 6, right? Yeah, tied for 5th.
There you go. Yeah, exactly. Well, you know what's interesting about it too, and you and I talked about this a little bit a couple of days ago. We were talking about Heisman odds and what it looked like this time a year ago. And I'll be damned, Mick, if I don't get on to the Bama ESPN page and the headline, the video on there, it's like a 4-minute video. OU versus Bama is a perfect opportunity for Milroe to boost his Heisman odds. This was posted last night. So I was like, yeah, if you want the real insight, you come to me and Mick first to talk about these kind of things and it's interesting because both of these guys have been in the crosshairs for Atlanta Falcons over last week because they were both on the field at different times for different reasons. Last year at this time, the Heisman frontrunner was Michael Penix. Yeah. And the guy that was in second place was Bo Nix. And anybody that's a Falcons fan out there knows that Michael Penix actually entered the game last week against Bo Nix's Denver Broncos while the Falcons were getting blown out, unfortunately. So that's interesting to think about. Jalen Milroe being at 6th or tied for 5th, it seems like he's outside of striking distance, right? Especially when you add in the fact that Travis Hunter, who is the favorite, is not a quarterback. So he's not really subjected to the same ups and downs, that quarterbacks are. When you look at Bo Nix and Michael Penix facing off on championship weekend last year and everything that comes along with that, or, one of them getting dinged up down the stretch. And it kind of puts those guys in the crosshairs more than a guy that plays DB and wide receiver, right? And Travis Hunter played 130 snaps last weekend in their victory, which is insane to think about. The other side of that, though, is if Travis Hunter goes out and can't finish a game over the next couple of weeks, there is precedence that says that maybe Travis Hunter, if you get hurt in the last few weeks, that's not going to be the guy. Ashton Jeanty, I think that there's going to be a lot of upside there, the Boise State running back. But I guess I say all that to say Jalen Milroe is going to be playing a night game against Oklahoma this weekend. And then it's already been announced that's a 3:30 Eastern Iron Bowl in a couple of weeks where everybody was going to be gathered around televisions and watching all the crazy college football that's on. So I'm not ruling him out. And if he plays the way he has the last few weeks, through the air and with his legs, you can't tell me if he somehow goes out this weekend and rips off a crazy Milroe game where it's 3 rushing touchdowns and 2 passing, that he's not going to be right back in the conversation. And then all eyes on him against Auburn, which Auburn's always crazy, but offensively, we usually have more success when we play Auburn in Tuscaloosa over the last few years.
Yeah, right.
That makes you feel a little bit better. So I don't know, man. Like, I think it would take some insane stats over the next couple of weeks for Milroe to climb back into that. Add that on, Mick, to championship weekend where a lot of these guys might not be playing in championship weekend. That kind of highlights a Dylan Gabriel, maybe a Cam Ward. Miami's still kind of on the edge of that one.
Right.
So, yeah, I think he's right there. I think my biggest question is not will he win. I think he's probably too far away to win unless something crazy happens. But I think he's probably invited if he can play really well over the next few weeks.
He's got to have Travis Hunter to me is the guy I'd probably vote for today, because playing both sides of the ball and being effective on both sides of the ball really is crazy. I don't think, look, I love Coach Prime. You know that. I've talked about this before, but I don't think that making it out to be where everybody's against you, Coach Prime, and that's why they might not vote for Travis is a good strategy. Like I saw him do that in the press conference, and I was like, come on, man. Like, just all you got to do is just talk about what a great player he is. Just talk about what great. And it maybe you know what, maybe the media is like that. I don't know. I don't follow Colorado media, but Dion, Coach Prime, whatever he wants to be called, he is a dude. He's great for the game. I mean, he is just great for the game. Love him and loved him as a player. Love what he brings to college football. The fact that they've turned that team around and that team around so fast. If I was Mike Norvell, I'd be like thinking like I got maybe one more year. And then when Coach Prime gets back home to Tallahassee, it's going to be really interesting. It's going to be interesting, Mike.
First of all, there's too much money with Mike Norvell, and shout out to Jimmy Sexton and Nick Saban for making that happen for Florida State, because Jimmy's he's unbelievable. And I think the buyout right now, I don't know what it is after next year. To your point, the buyout right now is like $70 million for Mike Norvell. I mean, it's insane. It's beyond, I think, what Jimbo Fisher's was. And I'm not sure Dion gets that far. Mick, I'm not sure that, and I would have told you a couple months ago, this is an absolute pipe dream. But I think both guys are keen enough on crazy ideas that I could see Deion being the head coach of the Cowboys. I could, man. Like, I know that's crazy to think about. I know, dude.
He didn't want to do the NFL, though.
Here's the caveat that comes with that. If he's the head coach of the Cowboys, it is essentially an impossibility that he'll coach his son in the NFL. That's the only thing that makes me wonder if he would accept that job. Now, if the Las Vegas Raiders came calling, that would be a whole nother conversation. But again, man, Deion might be the kind of guy that's like, you know what, man, it's time for you to stand on your own 2 feet. I'm going to go coach the Cowboys. We'll see you in week 7 next year, and let Shedeur go wherever, Shedeur needs to go. But it's, I don't know, man. I'm starting to lean more into the idea that Deion makes a Big 12 championship. It's going to be very, very impressive. I think he has a good way of talking his players into playing really hard. I think he understands football, obviously, and I wouldn't be shocked if he made the move to the NFL at some point. I think you got to strike while the iron's hot.
He didn't like the NFL. He said he didn't, but it
dude, the Dallas Cowboys
job. What about
the
Nick
Dallas
Saban,
Cowboys, dude?
What about Nick Saban?
You can talk about not liking the Yankees all you want to, but if they came and they said, Mick, we'd like to make you take over for Aaron Boone, I think you'd accept the job, buddy.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. So I don't know, man, but yeah, it's I think Travis Hunter is more locked in than years past because he's not a quarterback, and I think that it's very hard to go week to week with guys that are non-quarterbacks and start to pick them apart unless there's some kind of unforeseen injury, and I hope that doesn't happen to him. So, look, man, Jalen hopefully keeps doing Jalen things. Doesn't do like me and you both felt he did in the playoffs last year and kind of look up and take a breath. Like, keep your head down, dude. Go get you, 8 rushing touchdowns over the next 3 weeks.
Dude, that's the problem with this team I'm worried about. Just stay focused on the next game.
Yeah.
Just stay focused on the next game. Don't talk about what your old offensive coordinator said about you. Just stay focused, man. And you guys can beat anybody on any given Saturday.
Yeah, and there's a lot of consistency that needs to come with that. And I will say this too. There's been a lot of talk that if Ohio State loses to Michigan in a couple of weeks, that they that Ohio State might move on from Ryan Day. Feel the same way about Ryan Day. I'm like, dude, he has brought so much consistency other than playing Michigan to that program. The thought of them firing a guy that might lead Division I football over the last 10 years in winning percentages just makes me sick to my stomach. But I understand it, man. So yeah, not to go off on a tangent on that, but here we are.
I would get rid of him if he doesn't win this year. When you spend $20 million to go out and basically pad a roster that was already good, and you can't get it done, you got to go get somebody that can get it done. Get the guy.
I know, man, but look,
the ESPN set. He can do it.
Think about how consistent that guy has been, other than Michigan.
Yeah.
Other than Michigan, and he's been so consistent. And I just think that's a slippery slope, man. Like, think about a program that, let's just match up with programs where they were 15 years ago. Think about a program like Florida. How much they would give to have a coach as consistent as Ryan Day right now.
Yeah. Okay. I'm not going to argue there. All right. Let's take a look at the games around the SEC. We do this every week, Mike. We're brought to you by mybookie.ag. Use the promo code next round, just like on my hat here, to double your initial deposit. And with Mike's picks, you guys, I'd say just put a little bit of, just play a little bit. But when you get Mike's picks, you know that these are what could build you this could build you
you're gonna lose somebody some money.
A mansion. Just kidding. It's hard to make picks. I remember one year we used to pick on our show, and I had no clue about anything, and I beat you guys in that pick.
Yeah, it's just tough, man.
It's ridiculous how stupid.
I've learned a lot of lessons since that year, but yeah, it's tough.
Coker tells me that he's pros and I'm Joe's, and then but somehow I always seem to be right there.
Well, the thing is, dude, there's a reason that Vegas is so sick. There's a reason all those big buildings are built out in the middle of the desert, man, because they're going to get their money.
I know. When I see a spread like 13.5 at Oklahoma, I'm looking for a lot of weird holding penalties in the first like 3 or 4 minutes, or like last year at Auburn, like Bama had all those touchdowns called back, and then you're like, oh, okay, I get it. We're not covering today. All right. Anyway, let's start with an 11 a.m. matchup that means a lot. Number 9, Ole Miss, is at Florida. Florida coming off of a gutsy win. We'll call it gutsy at home last week against LSU. This week they got the Rebels 8-2, 4-2 in the SEC. Florida's 5-5, 3-4, and this one it has the Ole Miss Rebels at a 10.5-point favorite. The over/under is 55.5. What do you say, Mike?
I think, look, man, this is the Lane Kiffin effect, and I think that obviously they are a very good football team. But I like Florida to cover in this one. I think that Florida. Think about where Florida's at right now, as opposed to where you thought they'd be. They could, if they can go out and beat an Ole Miss, they would be looking at a realistic scenario of going 7-5, which would be a home run for Billy Napier this year, especially with DJ Lagway in his corner. I like Florida to cover this game. I'm not ready to go out and say that Florida beats Ole Miss, but I think this feels like one of those good old-fashioned field goal games from Lane Kiffin. Florida plays hard, dude. No matter what you want to say about talent, recruiting, X's and O's, they have gotten better this year, and they play hard. And as good as Lane Kiffin's team is, specifically in the front seven, going to Gainesville kind of takes away some of that in the front seven. I don't think they play as well away from home. So I like Florida to cover this game, man. I really do. I think that, Ole Miss winning by 4 or 5 points, something crazy like that, but Florida's going to play hard the entire way, and I think that's a tip of the cap to Billy Napier.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Until Ole Miss proves me wrong, they got to prove me wrong. These are the games that they could, trip up. We'll see what happens.
They feel like the new Penn State of the SEC.
Well, yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yes,
like, can't get over the hump.
Well, their coach came out. We played it yesterday, or on our last show, where Lane Kiffin's talking about other coaches not wanting to play in the SEC championship game, and that is akin to Jalen Milroe talking about the former offensive coordinator telling him to be a running back. It's just a distraction to your team. You're not paying attention to your next opponent. You got to be focused, and I'm sure that's why you don't say that, even though he's 100% right. It just gives your team, well, we got this. We're going to go ahead and put 2 dubs in. You still got to go out there and earn those. And, and they should win these games. I mean, they're a huge favorite, but nothing is written in stone. In Florida, I got to give Billy Napier credit. I mean, they've fought their butts off this year to kind of hang in. All right, 11:45, UMass at number 10, Georgia. It's a 42-point spread. We all know what's going to happen there. UTEP.
Pretty sure UMass fired their coach yesterday too.
Yeah. So that's going to be ugly. UTEP at 2-8, playing number 11 Tennessee. Tennessee, your non-SEC schedule was awful this year. I mean, I'm sorry. Like you guys playing NC State at the beginning of the year, a joke. You go out and go find somebody good to play. Go to Wisconsin, go to Oregon, but playing these cupcakes, if you get left out, it's your fault because of these type of games. When you think NC State's your big non-conference game. All right, so we don't even have to talk about that. You're playing an awful UTEP team. All right, this one right here is one of the ones I look at and I go, SEC schedule makers, what are you doing? Texas 9-1, 5-1 in the SEC, playing every cupcake that you could possibly play in the conference. I mean, not saying that Kentucky's a cupcake, but they are at 4-6 and 1-6. But they did beat Ole Miss. It's a 20.5-point spread for Texas. 46.5 is the over/under. Mike, I just have a feeling that over/under is going to be blown right through the water when Kentucky goes down big.
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea what to think about Kentucky at this point in the year, man, because you had a lot of upside to them. I mean, you look how closely they played Georgia. I know they beat Ole Miss. How closely they played Georgia in that game. It was gritty. They got in a little fist fight. They needed a couple turnovers, some bad plays by both the other teams, and they got it. They got it. They got timely turnovers and things like that, and just playing with grit up front. 20.5 is an interesting line because I don't think Texas runs the ball as well as you would want them to for the number 3 team in the country. They've had all those injuries at running back, and Kentucky, that kind of would play into their favor, but I'm just not sure that Kentucky has the speed on the exterior and honestly the defensive play design scheme to keep up with a team like Texas. So I've got Texas covering this one. I got Texas by, 4 touchdowns it would take to cover this, but it wouldn't be surprised if Texas plays sloppy that this game is kept close until the fourth quarter. So I think Texas covers, but Kentucky, They'll dig deep. There's no doubt about it.
Big battle in the state of South Carolina. What is that? The Palmetto State? Yeah. Number 18, South Carolina against Wofford.
The Terriers.
No line on this game. So I'm going to go ahead and make South Carolina 8-3 after this one. And then the South Carolina Clemson game is going to be awesome.
It is.
La Tech is at Arkansas. The Hogs are 22-point favorites at home, 49.5. I don't want to waste time on this one. Missouri at Mississippi State. Mizzou's only a 7.5-point favorite, and 57.5 is the over-under. Mississippi State's 0-6. I know Mizzou's been banged up. I really want them to win. I think it would hurt Bama as far as the to get to Atlanta if Missouri were to lose that game. I was surprised though at how tight that spread was.
Again, you said it would hurt Bama about getting to Atlanta. Question is if Missouri loses out, which I don't think they will, but if they were to lose out, even if Bama wins out, I don't know if Bama can get to the SEC title game. So I'm going to ask you again, who are you rooting for in this game? Because if you can tell me that Bama can win their next two games and sit out the SEC title game, and I know it's not a popular opinion amongst everybody, but Lane Kiffin, I kind of understand what he's saying. This spread is way tighter than it should be. Yeah. I'm just going to say that, dude. 7.5. Missouri has no business being number 23 in the country in the college football playoff. To me, if you're the college football playoff committee, you're setting yourself up to use Missouri as a pawn later on down the road. And you're going to add them to the fact that, Bama beat them handily and everything else, which I love. Mississippi State, I've been saying all year, was going to get somebody.
You think this is
this is a team that got blown out by, who was it, Kent State or Toledo or somebody earlier in the year. I've been saying they're going to get somebody. Maybe Mizzou's that team, but I'll be keeping a close eye on it. Mizzou minus 7.5. I got Mizzou by 10. If Brady Cook plays, I know he tried to last week. It shouldn't be a contest, but if he's not, Drew Pine, don't love it, man. But Mississippi State's going to play hard, so I think they keep this one a lot closer. At halftime, everybody's going to be going, "Oh my God!"
Right,
and then by the end, you'll get Mizzou by 10.
Yeah. If Mizzou has a chance though to score a bunch of points at the end on them, they will. They're going to go for the.
I agree.
That's
and Drinkwitz is it?
Yeah, he's
a douche.
He's the Wade. He's the Wade of college football. Will Wade of college football. I just see that. The guy on the sideline screaming at the players and just red-faced and everything,
man.
Talking all that smack. 6:30 on Saturday, Texas A&M's at Auburn. How about this spread? Number 15, Texas A&M, the Aggies. Maybe they're looking ahead of Auburn, getting ready for Texas. They're 8-2, 5-1 in the SEC. Auburn's 4-6, 1-5 in the conference. Texas A&M is a 2.5-point favorite, and the over/under is 46.5. I know they have issues at quarterback, but man, that they're begging you. Vegas is begging you to take the Aggies. Please take the Aggies. You know what I'm doing?
Yeah,
I'm listening. I'll take the Aggies in this one. Give me the Aggies.
You know what's funny, man, is I'm not. And you want to talk about the SEC going into chaos. The chaos is going to be when Auburn beats Texas A&M and Texas A&M beats Texas. Now we're really in chaos with the two-loss SEC teams. But I really do, man. Texas A&M plays very hard. But did you hear the clip of Mike Elko yesterday? And he's like, they're like, how do you keep your team from looking ahead to Texas? How do you keep them focused on Auburn? And he's like, I don't, it's tough, but, I think our guys are locked in on Texas. Auburn.
Oh, boy.
You're like, dude, that little Freudian slip right there.
Yikes.
Yeah, but, look, man, Auburn's got the pieces. I think Auburn's too good to finish with one win in the SEC, and I'm hoping they don't get that against Bama. So, look, man, that spread's stinky for a reason, man. Give me Auburn in this one. Give me Auburn for the huge upset. How about that?
All right. That would give them some momentum going into the Iron Bowl. And then finally, 6:45 of the SEC Network. It's Vanderbilt at LSU. The Tigers coming off of a dramatic loss at Florida. The sky's falling at Tiger Stadium, Death Valley, but it's a night game. And they never lose at night except to Alabama. So Vanderbilt is a 7.5-point underdog at LSU. Both teams are 6-4 and 3-3 in the conference. I feel like these are two programs moving in different directions.
Well, and look, we talked about Jalen Milroe in the playoff last year, not keeping our eye on the ball a little bit. You and I both felt like that. Diego Pavia, comes out like 2 weeks ago that he's suing the NCAA or whatever. And then, what happens? They get the doors blown off of them by South Carolina. So give me Vandy. Give me Vandy. I don't think people understand. You look at LSU and you say, okay, Garrett Nussmeier and Lacey and all these other pieces that LSU has. What they don't have is an interior offensive line or interior defensive line. Their interior offensive line is hard to watch for me. And I brought it up to you before Bama played them. It was just the left guard spot, but really what that's now done is kind of highlight their center spot and their right guard spot to an extent. They've got all-world tackles at LSU, but they've got basement level guards in their guard play down there. I think Vanderbilt can expose that. I think that they can get after it right now. I think that LSU had their eyes set on a higher price before this, and now that you've kind of pulled the pin out of that a little bit, I'll be anxious to see how focused LSU actually is, man. Brian Kelly yelling at people, which I kind of actually liked on the sideline, but Vanderbilt is a team that I think needs this win, would be a staple win, move them to 7-4. I think I'm taking Vandy in this game, dude. I think I am. Plus the 7.5.
Can you imagine the season Vanderbilt beat Alabama, and then beat Auburn and LSU on the road? And
should have beat Texas.
Season?
Should have beat Texas.
And could have beat, should have. If they didn't turn the ball over, it would have been like a nail biter, and it was still a 3-point game. So,
yeah.
All right, Mike. Well, look, you have a great college football weekend. No NFL for you with the Falcons on a bye week, so you get to relax a little bit, kick back, and
in the words of Sam Pittman, Mick, I think I'm gonna have me one of them cold beers.
Do it, man. I love a cold beer myself. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Well, have a great weekend, and all you guys like and subscribe. Thank you for being part of the Cover Crimson channel, man. Make sure you share with your friends, your other Alabama friends. There's a lot of us. We're still trying to dig and build up this channel, but we appreciate all of you guys for hanging out with us and being a part of it. And the comments are awesome, and I love reading the comments. Some of you guys like to get on here and crap on us. Some of you guys like to get on here.
And, man, what are they crapping on us about?
Oh, I don't know. That's what it's all about. Given everybody's got. Opinions are like, what, Mike? Everybody's got one. But I love going in there and reading them. So thank you, guys. Make sure that you check out covercrimson.com. Become a part of that. We're redesigning the site right now. You get a Cover Crimson t-shirt with the annual subscription. And that'd be a great stocking stuffer. An annual subscription to covercrimson.com. And we're also presented by mybookie.ag. Use the promo code NEXTROUND to double your initial deposit. But Mike just gave you all the picks you need to have a very fun weekend. Take them or leave them. Anyway, thanks, guys, and roll Tide.